Welcome back to another episode of Lookout Podcast. I'm joined with two fellas from the National Federation of Federal Employees, better known as NFFE or NFFE, Max Alonzo and Steve Gutierrez. And I'm going to have them introduce themselves right now. Max, if you can go ahead.
Yeah, hey man. Thanks for having us on, Luke. I'm Max Alonzo. I am the land management business rep for NFFE, NFFE, National Federation of Federal Employees. Um, I yeah, Gut.
Yeah, hi everybody. Steve Gutierrez here with NFFE. I'm the Western Territory National Business Rep. I come from a background in fire as well. Thanks for having us on here today.
Yeah, thanks for being on, fellas. And yeah, I was going to say, if you guys want to give a little background on kind of how you ended up where you are, so I started again with you, Max, if that's all right.
Yeah, man. I was working for the Forest Service many years ago. I didn't know we had a union. Nobody had told me. Years later, somebody mentioned it. I joined. I had a grandfather that was very pro-union. He was a union activist in the mines up in Arizona. So I felt like I just kind of had to do it, right?
Yeah.
I did, but at the same time, I didn't know what they did. I didn't really know much about unions at the time. And I can kind of give you that's how I started with the union.
Yeah.
The story definitely progresses over time. But a lot of it has to do with what happened in my career. So I have a very odd type of career, the way I got into working in fire. I got my job with the Forest Service within engineering. And it was the first few months I was there, I was up in Globe talking to some people there. Two guys on Globe Hot Shots were having kids, and they were seasonals and were going to lose their health insurance. And so they asked me, like, hey, man, do you think you could get your boss to bring us on in the wintertime so we keep our health insurance? And, we can do some road work or whatever. I'm like, well, yeah, dude, I'll ask. So I asked her, I told her the situation. She was awesome. One of the greatest supervisors. She brought him on. They worked with me. We became pretty good friends. And that winter, they were like, they found out that all of our money in engineering would get taken for fire borrowing, right? And so we kind of had to sit on our hands. And I'd been talking about how I always wanted to get into fire, and how I just kind of landed in engineering. I didn't know how to even get involved with the Forest Service, how to get a job. It was kind of a fluke. I won't get into that about how I ended up in engineering there. But so they were just like, dude, why don't you come work with us? Why don't you come in the summer, save your boss some money, and you're not doing anything anyway, just come work fire. So I talked to her. She was super stoked about it. Like, hey, I can save some money. It's almost like hidden money. Isn't going to get pulled because it was my salary.
Yeah.
So she got to save like half my salary, and I went and worked fire. So I did that my whole career pretty much, and I was the kind of the permanent fill in Region 3. I just, anywhere I needed, anybody needed somebody extra to go out, I'd go with crew, I'd go with an engine, whatever. During that time, I noticed a whole lot of issues. So I come from a first responder family. All of my brothers are police officers. My brother-in-law is a structural firefighter. Many other people in our family are first responders, and I knew what they got paid. I knew what kind of benefits they had. Presumptive illness, mental health care, the pay, all sorts of things,
Yeah.
And then being out on these fires, I started noticing even more. And, we're babysitting these guys over here, and they're getting paid 24 hours a day. They're making 3 times more than us. And we're sleeping in the dirt. They're going to hotels. They're getting paid. we're not getting paid to sleep in ash. They're getting paid to sleep at a hotel.
Yeah.
We're having to tell them what to do. What's going on here? You know, like how did this happen?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, and so I started kind of talking to more people in the union, and like our force supervisor that I was, Neil Bosworth, great force sup, honestly, great leadership there. I didn't have problems with our leadership. It's not why I joined the union or why I stayed doing it. Even our regional forester, Cal Joyner at the time, he was very supportive, but they both were just like, dude, it's out of our hands. And these people that you think are these like all powerful, oh, they can do it, they can make it happen. If they really wanted to make it happen, they can make it happen. Dude, they're middle management, you know? Really, it comes down to that, all the way up to the chief. I gotta say it, you know?
Totally.
So of course they were very supportive of me, and you know, they were like, we wish we could help, you know, maybe you gotta go lobby, I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where what happened is, I moved up in the union pretty quick. I became the local president and then the council vice president for Region 3. And I started kind of pushing things that I saw that were problems up the chain. I didn't have solutions. I didn't even know where to go with it, but I was pushing up the chain in the union, and ultimately got invited to go to a legislative conference that the International Association of Machinists, which we're part of, they put on every year.
Oh.
And that's when everything kind of changed for me. We went there. I met Bob Beckley, old smoke jumper from Missoula. You know Bob?
Yeah. No problem. Yeah.
Yeah, from Missoula, and you know his story.
Yeah, good dude.
Yeah, great guy. And just for your listeners, he was a smoke jumper. He got hung up in a tree, fell 80 feet. You know, he always says that he is 3 inches shorter than his last jump. You know, he went through hell, trying to get his body back in shape. He was never able to work fire again, but when he got back to the agency, they kind of tossed him aside and just kind of discarded him. But they didn't know Bob very well, and you know, as you know, Luke, he's quite a fighter. So he pushed back, and ultimately they found him a job, right? So he took this job. I believe it was in engineering at the time or something like that. I'm telling Bob's story. Sorry, but this is what got me going.
Yeah.
He took the job and then found out that when he signed that new 50 that he lost his fire retirement. Right. So just for your viewers, if you were to have, you could have worked 19 years, right, under a 6C arduous duty retirement. It's a 20-year retirement. You pay 1.8%. Everybody else pays 1%. You get out early. It's like a 15-year mortgage, but 20-year mortgage, whatever.
Yeah.
So you put more in, you get out early because of the job. But you could get up to year 19 and get injured on the job, doing your job, and not be able to perform the duties of your position description. And you can't stay in that position. They have to either move you or you have to take disability. You know, retire, like disabled or disability retirement.
Yeah.
This workforce is not the type of people to sit on a couch. You know, like like you don't get into this job if you want to sit on a couch, right? So of course you're going to take whatever they offer you. The day that new 50 gets cut, you lose your firefighter retirement. And all that extra money you put in, that 0.8%, goes away. You don't get it back. So Bob was fighting for this at the time. Sorry, I had to give you the backstory on how I met Bob.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is one of the many things that's wrong, and we need to fix this stuff, Bob. And he's like, well, all right, you and me, let's do this. So we did. We worked. He worked with John Tester from Montana. Got the bill introduced. I believe it was reintroduced 4 times. I don't think it ever made it out of committee. It was kind of going nowhere, and I couldn't believe it, right? Because why wouldn't you fix this?
Yeah.
So the more I got to DC and the more I saw what was happening there, and the more I talked to people on the Hill, the more I realized they didn't know who we were. They didn't know there was a federal wildland firefighter workforce. They had no idea. And that sounds crazy because that's the world we all live in.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know
Yep.
because we weren't firefighters. On paper, they don't see federal wildland firefighter. They see forestry technician. So that I know a lot of people are like, well, what's the big deal? What's the label? Who cares about the new series? You know, it means a lot. That's why we have all of these issues, right? Presumptive illness. You know, I know somebody that died of cancer, died with nothing, and that always bothered me because he got no help from the federal government, and we all know that his career in fire is what killed him. You know,
Yeah.
so. But you don't get presumptive illness benefits because you're a forestry technician, not a firefighter. Every other firefighter in this country gets it, right?
Yeah.
The pay. I mean, it's a fraction of what any other firefighter makes in this country.
Yeah.
So all these things I felt like were really part of that issue. I started realizing they don't know who we are. They don't know what we do. They don't understand this workforce. Another thing is like the media was never allowed to be around us. We all know that.
Yeah.
Like the red truck is parked at the blocking the road, and that's who they talk to, and everybody else is up working the fire. And if you were to talk to somebody with a camera or a microphone, you got hell to pay if you even have a job the next day, you know? So, I mean, that's kind of how we came up, right? Like you're out there, put your blinders on, you know,
Yep. No.
and walk past the film crew or, you know. So, with that, I started realizing the power of the union, that, you know, it gave us a platform. It gave us, you know, protections. It gave us all sorts of you know, we can change policy. We can change laws. We can, you know, like we have a master agreement that like people didn't realize every 4 years we can put new stuff in there. Like we can change things, you know? So I got super energized and I saw all the different avenues that we could take. And I started working with firefighters around the country, you know, talking to them. Andy Vanderheel that was supposed to be on, but he's flying out to DC. So,
Oh, yeah.
so he couldn't be on. But he's one of the guys I talked to really early in my union kind of career, and we talked about this whole thing, and now we're kind of here together, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, you know, so that was kind of the start of it when I realized that there was a lot of disparities, and it really pushed me to do more legislative work, to get out to DC, to get people motivated, to build my local, get people involved. And I started realizing very early that a lot of people think that the union is there to like protect you, to save you, to, you know, there's a group of people that are going to come help you, right? With
Yeah.
all their lawyers and it's us. Like the union is nothing but a tool, right? It's just like fire tools. And I said this earlier today. It's just like you got a couple buggies full of tools, right? You park them next to a fire, that's it's gonna burn up if you don't have anybody to use the tools.
Yeah. She gone.
Or you can drop 25 men and women off next to a fire. They're gonna burn up if they don't have tools to work with, right? But if you put those two things together and you teach those people how to use the tools, you can get a lot done. And that's where we're at right now. A lot of people keep asking that question, like, why now, dude? Why now? I never heard about NFFE before. You know, we've been here, we've been working, but we haven't gotten out there and talked to people and told people about what we're doing and gotten people active and gotten people like going to DC, writing their congressmen, getting involved with their locals, taking action, taking responsibility for themselves, their own jobs, their own lives, right? It's always been, what's the union doing for me? And I'm like, well, what are you doing? You know, what are you doing for your people? Like, that's where we're at now.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it has changed the narrative. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say to your point, Max. Like, and we kind of talked about it on the phone before. It's like, and you mentioned earlier. It's like so many people see the problems, and there are quite a few of them that we're dealing with in the Forest Service world, you know, and the wildland world, you know. And it's like, yeah, we all know these problems, but what are you doing about it? Like you said, like I don't want to hear the problems because we all know the problems. What are the solutions? Let's try to get those solutions going, you know. And that's been the mindset of every firefighter, right? When you go to a big fire and you have like all these things happening as a community, there's you know a rare trout that you didn't know about. And it's like, yeah, you got all these problems, all right? Let's get solutions. Let's move these fish. Let's protect that community, like all these things we can do, right? So like, let's put them together into more of the political world and do the same things, like get our retirement back, get our overtime paid and towards retirement, and get a better pay scale, like all these things.
Yeah, 100%, man. And it's yeah, it definitely my whole outlook changed the more I got involved. The more I realized like how much we could get done.
Yeah.
Now we're actually giving those tools to the freaking strongest workforce out there. Like the most resilient, hardest working workforce. We're gonna get shit done. You know what I mean? Like now that people are learning how to do this and learning how to use the process and get involved. So before we just didn't know. We didn't know. Wildland firefighters were a fraction of our membership within NFFE years ago. We never talked to them. They weren't involved. I mean, we got all sorts of stuff for firefighters, and we never talked about it. So, like, I feel like there's a new empowerment now. So, I mean, I'll kind of get back to it. So I was doing that. I got hurt. I couldn't work fire anymore. I ended up kind of moving up pretty quick within the Forest Service, getting a good regional job. And I was kind of hating it, but I was, now in management or whatever, and I could not be a member, but I'd still pay dues every 2 weeks. I'd write a check and I'd put it in the mail, lick the envelope, send it to NFFE, because I knew how much they had done, and I knew how important it was for this workforce. And my colleagues, my friends, my best friends that are still in fire. Anyways, I got a call from Randy Irwin, the president of our union, the national president, and I'd met him multiple times. We'd become somewhat of friends over the years of me going to DC and doing this stuff. And he was like, "Hey, I'm not offering you a job, but there's going to be a position open, and you should probably put in for it."
Yeah.
I put in for it. I ultimately got it, and when I did, I'll get kind of back to what we were talking about a second ago. I was walking out of the office, and a couple of my friends that were in the office were like, I'd gotten the job, I was leaving, I was almost, there was tears in my eyes walking out of my office at the Forest Service, because like it's your identity, right? Like it's just what you do, it's who you are.
Yeah. Green.
So leaving,
Yeah, green flowing through your veins, man. Like it was a career, life.
yeah. So leaving was the hardest thing, one of the hardest decisions I ever made. And I was kind of taking a pay cut because I'd moved to California, and it's pricey out here. So I wasn't making more. I mean, kind of, but not really with the price difference and everything. And I knew that, but I knew that I'd have a platform to do this. And I remember my buddy saying, like, "Dude, what are you doing? Like, dude, you got a cushy job. They're fast tracking your ass. You're gonna be up in DC no time. Like, why are you leaving now, dude?" And I'm like, "I'm gonna get this shit fixed, dude. Like all the stuff I've talked about for years, I'm gonna have a platform to fix it now."
Yeah.
And he kind of laughed at me, and he's like, "Dude, I believe in you, Max, but people have been trying to do this shit for years and nobody's gotten it done. Why do you think that you can do it?" And that's the thing. I told him, I'm like, "You're wrong. Nobody is working on our behalf right now. Nobody has, and nobody will, and nobody's doing it. Nobody has in the past, and nobody's going to do it in the present. You can't wait around for somebody to fix this stuff. Like, we have to do it. And there's nobody doing it right now, and I'm getting the opportunity to do it. And it's a really great opportunity for us, and I'm going to build up this land management program. I'm telling him all this stuff I had in my head."
Yeah.
And he's just like, "All right, dude. Like, I believe you. Go for it." So I started off as a business rep here, and I was just covering all the federal agencies on the West Coast, not just Forest Service. I mean, Forest Service is just a part of it. But I told Randy when I got the job that, hey, if I take, I want to start a land management program and fix all this stuff and build these locals, and I want the Forest Service to be the strongest part of this union, because I know how to do it and I know what they need. I know how to fix some stuff. He's like, go for it. So that's where, I mean, I had this logo drawn up probably 10 years ago. And so we started our own land management program. I met Gut on a grassroots call. And it was, it was like right after I talked to him, I'm like, all right, this dude's working with me. I love this guy. So ultimately, we hired him on as a business rep. He kind of took over my old spot in California, but at the same time, he's also doing two jobs. He's helping me with land management. I'm running the land management. He's kind of my right-hand man. Everything I do, he's there with me doing it, and vice versa. It's the program has just blown up. Like we have, the membership is blown up. People have gotten involved. We've been bringing people to DC. That's the big thing. The educating people in Congress. They didn't know who we were. They had no idea what the job was, and we keep bringing. It costs a lot of money to bring these people to DC, get them hotels, get them per diem, plane tickets, feed them, all of it. It's not cheap. So people ask where the dues payer money goes, and I'm like, that's where it goes. We educate Congress. We talk to Vilsack. We talk to Randy Moore. We go to the White House. We talk to the president. We're walking through the halls of the Senate, talking to every senator that'll, give us time. Same with the House. And that's how we got the First Responder Fair Retire Act, Bob's bill, passed unanimously on both sides. It never had any traction, but we start bringing firefighters to Congress and telling them what's actually happening, who we are, what the job is, and they're finally getting it. And if anybody understands how politics work, you rarely get a standalone bill that gets through, right? That isn't attached to something else.
Yeah.
And in this Congress, they can't agree on what day it is. They can't agree on anything. Yeah. This bill passed the Senate, and it passed the House unanimously as a standalone bill. And it fixed the firefighter retirement if you get hurt. That is huge. That just doesn't happen right now. Presumptive illness. We actually sat down with the Secretary of Labor. We told him, like Marty Walsh at the time, we said, hey man, like this is what's going on in fire. We talked to him for an hour. Afterwards he goes, I don't know what I can do for you. I'm the Secretary of Labor. You need to talk to Vilsack in Holland. No, man, like you can make a change. You can actually do a policy change to accept presumptive illness for these wildland firefighters. Even though they're forestry technicians, they are firefighters. They're first responders that deserve that benefit.
Yeah.
You need to make a special claims unit for wildland firefighters, because I'm sick of seeing wildland firefighters' claims get rejected because they're 2 states away from their duty station, and the people at Department of Labor don't understand that, right? They don't understand the way the job works or the injuries we get. So he said, all right, I'll see what I can do. And 2 months later, Gut and I and a few folks from the Angeles and the Purdue were asked to go meet with Secretary of Labor in LA, and he rolled it out and made it a policy change. Biggest day of my career, I'll say. It was huge for me.
Man, the recent studies, about all the particulate matter and stuff, and then the tumors, like, I mean, it's undeniable that people are getting sick from fire, and then not get compensated for it. It's just bad. So, man, huge. That's huge.
Yeah. And then we were able to get it into the NDAA, so now it's law. So, I mean, some of this stuff I'm just talking about because I think a lot of people don't know we have those benefits right now. It's not like the Forest Service put this stuff out. If anybody gets hurt, don't go to eSafety and do your thing. Go to Department of Labor. If you get hurt, if you get any sort of diagnosis like this, do an e-comp. It's called e-comp through Department of Labor. Get that done first, then go back and do your eSafety or whatever. They don't communicate. So you're just waiting for somebody to, you got to be your own advocate. Get your claim number. If you're having problems, go to NFFE.org, find my phone number, call me, and I'll help you through the process. But anyways, We got that done. Then we got it into the NDAA, so now it's law. No president can take it away. We're good. It's law.
That's huge.
Um, Another thing we were working on, just to kind of get into the legislative stuff, since we kind of are there at this point with the conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, Gut. I'll let you kind of talk here too. We can both talk. So,
No worries
um,
here, buddy.
what's that?
He said, no worries. He said, no worries.
Yeah, no worries. I'm here.
So when I first started, Steve Lankart, our chief of staff and legislative director, we talked about all the issues, and I kind of got him up to speed on everything. And he's like, "Well, we're trying to get stuff into the NDAA right now. What do we need to get in there?" And so, I was working with Andy Vanderheel, with a few other folks from like other firefighters that are involved with the union,
Yeah, yeah.
and one of the things that the pay was huge and the series was huge. There was a lot of other stuff we tried to get in there, but one of the things was, the $20,000 or 50% of your pay. That was straight from us. The new series, I knew that was kind of the root of all evil, is not having a series. But I had way more hopes for that. Just to be clear, I thought that if it was done right, if we got a new series, and they actually did it correctly, and they looked at the complexity of work, the skills you needed, all of that, there would not be a GS4 in fire. Probably not even a GS5. I feel like after a couple of months being totally green, the span of control, the the responsibilities, and the complexity of the work, I don't see any wildland firefighter should be under a GS6. It's just crazy. If you actually captured the work, we wouldn't have GS3s, 4s, and probably not even 5s if you did it correctly.
Well,
And then
yeah.
when you go everybody up the chain should be bumped up multiple grades. And then the qualifications that you hold, like Jesus, when you're working with those qualifications, you should be getting some sort of extra pay, or something.
Yeah.
So
Totally, Max. To your point there, man. Like, just even as a green firefighter, first year firefighter, you're going through guard school, which is typically a week long of nothing but training. And you get certificates for all these trainings that you do. These, intro to wildland fire, weather, all these things, and then you go through another training S212 for a saw. So you're getting like all these qualifications, and you're not getting anything back for it. Just you're going to be a qualified firefighter at the end, I guess, and then the pack test. But like some people can pack test and go on the fire line anyways. So it's like you're not
yeah,
getting, yeah, you're not getting for these qualifications. And then, like you said, then your second year or third year, then you get your firefighter one or your IC5, and then you're in charge of a fire and you're in charge of people, and you might not even get a bump in pay at that point.
yeah,
Like
100%.
yeah, so it's like you're not getting like any other position. The more skill you had and education you had, you usually get bumped up. Like teachers sometimes. I don't know if this still happen, but it used to be like you get paid so much for a bachelor's, you get your master's, you get more. In our line of work, it doesn't work that way for training, or for firefighter,
So
right? Like you become a hot shot for helitack rappel, it's more training and more risk and more responsibility, and
100%.
you don't get more money for it. You should get more money for that.
So that these are all the things that we were pushing, right?
Yeah,
So that's what I thought the new series was going to do. It was going to capture the work.
yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't want to get into that, but
No, no,
unfortunately, the agencies have not done the work. We did the work, but they don't want to accept our work, and so we're kind of fighting back and forth right now. And like I said, I don't want to get into the weeds with that.
no. We don't.
Um,
Yeah, we don't do that.
yeah, but
There's a lot of
because
weeds.
yeah, and we're kind of in the middle of the field of weeds right now.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyways, but the retention bonus. A lot of people ask, why did you guys do it temporary? Why temporary? There's so much uncertainty, and it's like the reason is because we would have never gotten that as a permanent raise. They would have never given it to us. No way. Would have never happened, right? But
Yeah.
now that we got it, how are they going to take it away, right? How are they going to? They can't take it away.
Good
They
point.
take it away now. 50% of our firefighters are walking out the door because they literally can't survive. They don't have a choice. So, we didn't necessarily know that at the time, but that's the reality of it now.
Yeah.
Um, But
Well,
we did have a backup plan, so we knew that once they couldn't take it away, so we have to get a law introduced, right? And so we worked with Kirsten Sinema. We got WFPPA. First we got it into the president's budget, pulled it out. WFPPA, Wildland Firefighter Paycheck Protection Act. Just for everybody out there listening, HR on the House side, HR 5169. And on the Senate side, it's 2272. Call your senators, call your congressmen, tell them to get this damn thing passed. Get it through committee on the House side and get it to a floor vote. It is so important that we get this done.
and then Matt,
This
you were going to give me a QR code and
we
another
will.
I can put in the comments. So for folks who are maybe not taking notes on this, it'll be in the comments, or not in the comments. It'll be in the description of this podcast on YouTube or on Spotify, and you'll be able to hit a link or hit the QR code. So
Can,
yeah,
can you knock that out, Steve, while we're talking real quick?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can get it to you.
Okay. I'll be done here in a second.
thanks, man.
So yeah. Anyways, that's where we're at. We're now we have to get WFPPA passed by October 1. Um, we're getting a lot of pushback right now in the committee side of the House. Forestry Committee and Natural Resources. I don't want to get into that. It's very political. There's some people that I don't think want this to happen. They wouldn't openly say that, but they don't want it to happen. They want to see big timber come in, and I don't know if it's so they can get the old growth that doesn't quite burn up, give it to the timber companies. I've been told that there's they want to do clear cutting and call it fire breaks, and because these folks are getting funded by the timber companies, so there's an issue there. It's the people that are running these committees, and hopefully they really start understanding that lives are at risk, towns are at risk. I mean, in one of these districts, we had two towns burn up in the last few years. A lot of deaths, a lot of destruction, and we're still not getting the help from that congressman.
Yeah,
Um,
and to that point,
so
Max, even the wildlife damage. Like if we get a hot fire that happens because the fuel level and nukes the ground, even the wildlife can't stay in there because there's no food form or anything left or any kind of habitat. So it's like we all lose with
yeah, and have fun drinking mud. You
yeah,
know, I mean, the watershed's gone. Like that's where a lot of people are. I've heard people say, "Why is the Forest Service still in Department of Agriculture? The crop used to be the trees, and we're not doing the timber sales anymore." And I'm like, the crop is water, like that. Like the crop is water. That is where all our water comes from.
yeah, good.
So yeah. Anyways, so where we're at right now is I feel very positive about it. A lot of people don't, but I feel very positive about this happening. I think we're probably going to end up getting into a bigger package. But the bottom line is that the consequences of not getting this done are they're unacceptable. Like the American public is not going to accept this not happening. So
Yeah,
we have to get it done. But in order to get that done, we have to educate these people. We gotta like really light the fire under some of these congressmen. No pun intended.
yeah,
We got to get their districts to really step up and understand what's at stake. And not just firefighters. I mean, this is going to affect everybody in the country.
yeah,
It's not just about paying firefighters more so they can get boats. It's paying firefighters so they can pay their very modest mortgage and put gas in their car to get to work and have their wives not stand in a food line, while they're out working fires. That's ridiculous.
yeah,
So that's where we're at. We have firefighters that are sleeping out of their cars. We have firefighters that have, like I said, they're like, anyways, it's bad. It's
it's
very bad. The housing's bad. There's so many issues, and we could talk for hours. And I know we're not going to talk for hours because we don't have that kind of time. I do want Gut to kind of tell his backstory. I've kind of gone on for quite a while. Gut has a lot to say. Great guy, my right hand man, and I'm just going to let him him talk for a bit, and then we can talk later.
Yeah, sounds good. Appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Max. So thanks for having me on. My name's Steve Gutierrez. I'm a national business rep for the Western Territory for NFFE. Uh, I worked for the Forest Service for 15 years. I started my career out on a Type 2 crew down here on the Angeles National Forest, the Roadrunners. And then I moved my way up to a hotshot crew right off the bat, working in Region 6 at Zigzag Hotshots on the Mount Hood. And then I met my future wife and said, hey, like, get on board or not, kind of thing. And I moved my way down here to another hotshot crew, Dalton Hotshots, here on the Angeles National Forest. And I ended my Forest Service career with on a Type 3 fire engine as an engineer out of Chileo on the Angeles National Forest. So I'm only a year removed from the job, so a lot of this stuff is pretty fresh for me. Uh, it's kind of it was happening as I was there, kind of deal. So it's really to rewarding to see the fruit of our labor, so to speak. Um, but I got involved in the union because honestly, I didn't have a need for it. I didn't have an issue. Uh, but I started seeing what like grassroots was doing, and I started seeing some of my friends that are part of grassroots, that are advocates on there, that are on their board. I used to work with them on Zigzag, and I was on a grassroots call, and Max popped up, and here we are now. A couple of years later, and I got really involved with a good friend of mine, Mark Munoz, and we grew our local from 15 members to almost 500, 600 now. So the local that I was part of, 1650, they represent Southern California forest. So Sequoia, Angeles, Purdue, LP, and the Cleveland. So pretty big accomplishment. Like-minded folks, in that area. But we started realizing that there's an opportunity to take place in this book here. Um, a lot of false truths. A lot of because I said so. Um, and I started using this as a way for us to hold management accountable, but not only that, like how can I get my guys paid more? Um, what pay issues came up, per diem issues came up, travel, and I started just going through it and essentially finding out that there was a lot of wrong happening, and we've been winning every case since. So, that's a little bit of it. We did the legislative stuff like Max was talking about earlier, and Max mentioned, we met up with Secretary of Labor, and I brought a fire engine, a Type 3. He's like, "What's that?" It was like, "Sir, that's a Forest Service fire engine." He's like, "Really?" And I
Yeah.
said, "Yeah, it's not a sparklets truck, man." And I pointed right up to Mount Wilson at the time and said, "Hey, look, there's your nearest forest. That's how close we are." And nothing against what he offered. I mean, he's from Boston. They just don't know.
No.
There were several times Max and I met up with legislators and like, why don't you just go talk to your boss and like ask for a pay raise, And I'm like, ma'am, you are my boss. Like,
Yeah.
you are the one that controls this. And they just had no idea that we existed. There's a lot of, and nothing against the city and the state, they advocate for themselves a lot. Their unions are very proactive in asking for pay increases and stuff like that. They've been present. They they're listening to them and they think they've been supporting us the whole time, and it just hasn't been that way. So good on them to do what they're doing, but we're here now and they need to realize like we need to get our piece too, and wildland firefighters don't deserve the type of pay that they have been giving. um, I mean, we work pretty darn hard. Most of us now probably work 1,000 hours overtime, except for you jumper bros.
Yeah.
um, but I mean, it's
Little thinner unless you go to Region 8, then you get up there.
right, right. So I mean, the thing the it's an opportunity. It's a tool we need to use. We need to make sure that we've been active and stay active, because if we don't endorse this, if we don't hold folks accountable to this master agreement, to our contract with management, it will go away. And I'm sure you've heard the term like normalization of deviation.
Yeah.
Management has normalized deviating from policy, right? And that's the craziest part. I've been told, hey, you need to go and like read this Man, Mission, and Me and Extreme Leadership and all these like awesome books that we've all grown to be mentors and fireline leadership on, but I feel like they're not even reading it themselves and applying it. Don't just talk about it, be about it. And we've got a lot of really good leaders and experience in this agency, and if we put that effort towards ourselves and pay benefits and working conditions, anything is possible. Look at what we've done in the short time that we've been doing this. It's been tremendous.
Absolutely. And to what Max's point is, there's not an option, because if the pay doesn't come through, it's it's not like, oh well, we'll make it work. You can't make it work anymore because you can't afford it. Like the inflation and all this stuff that's going on, and the cost of living. It's fire GS3, GS4, GS5, even GS6. I mean, I know GS11s are like, yeah, I'm doing all right, but I'm not really getting ahead. GS11.
Yeah.
And that's, you don't know, that's high up the pay scale. It takes a long time to get through in the Forest Service, especially in fire side, to get to a GS11, which is really thin, really hard after GS7. So it's like,
Right.
it's not even an option, because these folks won't be able to do the job anymore because they can't afford to do it. So they're gonna have to go look for something else that pays.
Right. So we advocate for like the national stuff, but locally here, what we're advocating for is things that management can control. Work schedules is a big one,
Yeah,
right? How can we control our work schedules? How can we go and empower our folks? There's been a time period where it's like you can't get travel if you've been on a fire on your forest. Like what? Federal travel regulation doesn't say that. It says 12 hours or more on instance, regardless of mileage. You should be entitled to that, right? Just like the hazard pay stuff. Steep and hazardous terrain counts as hazard pay, but we don't acknowledge it. Those are the little things that we've figured out. It shouldn't be the fact that I'm a firefighter, I fight on the hillside, I staff an engine, I respond to medical calls and traffic collisions, and I still have to figure out policy and do their job at the same time. That's unacceptable, in my opinion.
yeah, agreed, man. Yeah, and then you're out there sleeping in the dirt, like Max said, and you're not getting paid for it. And then you have these expectations. The big one too is like the callbacks, right? Like I'm pretty sure all hotshot crews have callbacks, and it's like, but I'm not getting paid to be within 2 hours of the base, but I still have to be within 2 hours of the base. You know, But
Right,
that's
right.
yeah, that's a good one, man.
And it's the when I took when I got my crew boss and I started this job and I got into a leadership role, is this old soup, had mentioned to the entire class. Remember rule number one, and rule number one was take care of the guys, take care of the bros, like at all times. That's rule number one. And no matter, all your decisions should be dictated off of that. I'm not saying everybody has to indulge. I'm not saying anything, but take care of your folks. Period.
Yeah,
So I think there's an extreme disconnect of taking care of folks. I know there's a lot of talk, but there needs to be some walk too, right? And this union's the one thing that is walking the walk, and they're talking the talk. And you know, like Max said, this union wasn't really active. I mean, I did the job for 15 years. I didn't find out until like my 12th year. you
yeah,
know, like what the heck? This is an opportunity that I didn't use. And the great thing about our union, or what federal unions in particular, if you think about it, our dues are lower than the private sector, because those dues pay for union stewards to go and act on their behalf during like a normal day to day, right? But not only that, the government pays for it. The government pays your time to do and act as a union steward, so you're getting paid normal wages, right? And then
yeah,
on third, they have to come to the table every time, right? They have to come to the table to bargain in good faith and negotiate this stuff. It's not like, oh, I don't want to come to the table, right? That's an unfair labor practice. You can't do that, right? And
yeah,
then the biggest thing is, oh, we can't strike. Okay, 80% of public sector unions in the country cannot strike. Cops can't strike, firefighters can't strike, most teachers can't strike. That's just not an existing. That's not an argument not to be part of something that controls your environment. Um, and you know, we've been very successful.
Yeah,
Our
yeah, absolutely, Steve. Sorry, I was thinking about the strike thing. Like, yeah, you see, I mean, it seems like whenever there's an issue that teachers like, especially pay, is a big one for the teachers. It seems like there's usually a picket line out front of the school, So, and then I
right.
think a lot of strikes. So, hmm,
Yeah, so what can we do? We
yeah,
lobby to Congress, right? We lobby to Congress. That's one thing that is super influential. If there's a bigger group of people that I know that can A, paint a picture, right? And B, are very good at persuading folks, it's firefighters,
yeah,
right? I painted a picture calling in a helicopter multiple times, and I've definitely persuaded triple C's to get batteries at supply camp. That's literally what's going on. You're using those skills to get some buy-in to everything. The problem is we're all kind of scattered, and nobody really knows what we're doing, and that's why we're on here today is to get this message across the nation. It's not a West Coast problem. It's an entire national problem. Think about if all this, everybody knows this, but think about it. If the national forest burns, you're going to get watershed issues, you're going to get paper mill issues, you're going to get recreational issues, and wildlife and hunting and fishing and all this other stuff. It's all compounding. And the biggest thing is we can't, we got to stop doing more with less. We have to stop that. That
yeah,
needs to stop. The do more with less attitude is gone. We can't do bubble gum, we can't do duct tape, and we can't do band-aids anymore. And that's what's gotten us to this place where we did all that stuff and we made it work. And that's great on fires. That's not great in day-to-day life in this environment.
yeah. That's a great point, Steve. Because that's me and Max talked about that before. Actually, that it was always kind of like the figure it out. Let's just keep pushing through. And like you said, it's a good mantra during fire because you have to, and there's no other options. And but like for like you said, the day to day and benefits and families, like we got to do better. What is it like? 10,000 wildland firefighters in the Forest Service alone. That's just Forest Service. That's not talking state, or BLM. Yeah. So like Max said, more 10,000 Forest Service. So that's a lot of.
Right. Right. That's a lot of folks that are spread out throughout the country. And I recently met somebody on another part of the country other than the West Coast, and they were saying they had never heard of the bill. And I said, "What? Where do you live? Like, where are you? What kind of rock are you on? How do you not know this? Did you not notice the $700 you got in your check? Thank
Yeah,
you. You're welcome. Like, where did this come from?"
yeah, the boot stipend.
Right, yeah. Like I get it on a it's an accident. I get it every 26 pay period. So the
Yeah,
the there's no option to but not be a part of this anymore. And it's do or die right now. This bill is on the line. We have to get it done. We There's no other time we've had these opportunities afforded to us, and right now that fire's on top of the ridge just hanging out there and it's getting ready to slop over. And if we don't, flank it on both sides, we're going to lose it and we're going to have to go down into that drainage there and have to go get it out. And then the next ridge is Congressional 7, 119th congressional session, right? That's next election, right? To put it into terms, that's where we're at right now. This thing is slopping over, and we're gonna have to go and like downhill on this, and we're gonna stop operations, call in helicopters, and all that stuff. So
yeah, and we'll start over again. And then with the with the election coming, and a new
right,
group of folks being in office, it's like yeah,
yeah.
now before.
And there's been many times where I had folks say that, oh, I didn't vote because I was on a fire. Like, we cannot have that happen. I don't care who you vote for. I mean, I do care, but we're a bipartisan union, right? We support those that support us. Do some homework and find out what your legislators are actually voting for and if they put food on your table. Because if you can't pay your bills, regardless of who you voted for, it's not going to make a difference, right? Kitchen table economics, right? If this person is voting against the Wildland Firefighter Paycheck Protection Act, or if they're not on it yet, that's a huge red flag. Let's
Yeah.
write them and see where they're at on it, and try to get that connection. Because if they're not on it, this is bipartisan. This makes no sense. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't even increase any money to the budget. It's actually fiscally not correct if we go and continue like privatization and contractors and bringing state and municipalities in here. They're 4 times more, right? And they don't even pay their folks correctly, even on the private side. That's
No.
ridiculous. It doesn't make sense. If we're going to be fiscally conservative, then pay people right the first time, right? Because we're
Hmm.
not driven by money. We're driven by what? We care about the land management.
Yep. Yeah, it's mostly just a bunch of people who like the outdoors and get an opportunity to be in it more, and then also, enjoy a work that's a little more exciting and teamwork. Like there's no other job I've ever done that's you're part of such a big team. You hear wildland fire, and probably fire in general doesn't matter if you're city structure firefighter or wildland firefighter. It's one big family, and you feel it whenever you
Yep.
get. It's like, it's like talking to a cousin or something, man. It's like you're speaking the same language. You have the same issues, the same challenges. We're all fighting the same fire.
Right. And I challenge a lot of those municipal guys or state guys now. Hey, give back to your brothers and sisters you left when you used this as a stepping stone, because they still need to get paid too.
Yeah,
That's you got a lot of really good work ethic, and you got a lot of experience out of it. Give back and help write your congressman and get these guys together, because like like my boss says, we're in the solidarity building business, right?
yeah.
And we're here to protect all federal and workers in like, right? It's not over one or the other. It's just let's take care of each other. That's just a little bit of it.
Totally, Steve. And then, like, to kind of Max kind of touched on a little bit earlier. Like the blueprint's already there because city firefighters are already doing it. Like I was working for the city of Great Falls Fire Department. And so structure fire and the screening, just the health screening before I even got a job, like it was gonna be. I think I was already hired, but either way, I had like a way more in-depth health screening than I ever have gotten in the Forest Service. They did a chest X-ray, ECG, check my heart, check
Yeah,
my lungs, like a lot of stuff, and that's an annual thing that the structure fire world does now to stay ahead of cancer. Because there was the fellow in the fire department who they weren't doing the chest X-ray then, got a really cancer in his lungs, and it killed him. On
yeah,
diagnosis in Seattle. They caught it early. He's still alive, and I think he's still fighting fire. And it's like, so, I mean, he's still able to do the job because of good, screenings and taking a step. And so what I'm saying is the blueprint's already there. We just got to do it for our wildlanders too.
yeah, 100%. And the best part is as a union steward and acting in a union capacity, you get paid to do it.
Yeah.
It's honestly a no-brainer. This group is very motivated, and we need more help. I need more brains. I need more eyes. I need more ears. I need everybody that if you want to research something, if you want to just do newsletters, or you want to do social media, we need your help. We need you to get involved in your union to take control of your career, right?
Yeah.
To take control of like what the narrative is for us, because like we were saying earlier, everybody avoided cameras. I remember like definitely avoiding cameras many times,
Yeah.
many times, and now I'm like in front of them quite often, and they're just like, why are you just barely coming to us now, or where have you been?
Yeah, yeah, totally. Like, I knew some folks that went to the Hill last year, I think it was, or maybe a couple years ago now, and Vilsack didn't even know, Secretary Vilsack didn't even know really who we are, what we do. But then you go to the jump base in Missoula, and there's old newspaper articles with the President of the United States at the jump base getting awarded like as an honorary smoke jumper. So it's like we did a really good job back then of like staying relevant and staying in the news, and then we got away from that and got more towards that quiet professional thing, and that doesn't help.
Right, and if you are going to be in front of the news or media or something, reach out to the union. We'll help you out and guide you through that. No problem. But also be proud of it. So what if you got to buy beers for everybody? Or so what if you got to buy ice cream for everybody? At least you guys had some ice cream, you had some beers together. It's okay.
Yeah,
No big deal. It's
it's
not
a,
the end of the world. If anything, you're advocating for yourself.
totally, man. It's an excuse for a hang, and uh,
Yeah.
yeah, to get together for and joke about that because Yeah, like you said, it's kind of strange because you were like that early on in your career. I'm sure Max did the same thing, and myself is like, we had to do a little bit of PR training in guard school, and it was like, public relations training, and it's so odd. Like my young self would have been like, if I could get like peeking to see this, see me on a podcast now talking to you fellas, he'd be like, what am I doing, man? Like I don't want to be around a so doing this is nuts, but it shows the power of what's going on. Like that's part of the reason why I started this podcast is because I was like, man, like I need to help out, and spread the word for what you guys are doing, and now that I'm a union member too of what we're doing, I guess, and try to help out. Especially when I heard that Vilsack thing, I was like, man, that's crazy. Like,
Think about the fact that the term wildland firefighter has been said on the Senate and the House floor and out of the president's mouth. That has never happened. I've never heard that.
yeah,
Right? Oh, you're a forestry guy, or U.S. Forestry Service. You've heard that a billion times,
mm-hmm.
right? So to hear that, that shares that we're like actually getting through. We just we got to catch it at the ridge. That's where we're at right now, and we need folks from all over the country to get involved, get engaged, and take control of your career because this is right on the line. And if you need help writing a letter, it's already written for you. If you want to add more to it, perfect. If you're on Instagram and take pictures and show yourself on fire, tag the representative that's in the area. If you don't know, reach out to us. We'll get it to you. Tag the city and state you're in, and they will see it on their social media team because they need to see that federal employees are out there doing this because the idea is that you guys are underpaid and you guys underwork, and that's BS.
Yeah, yeah, totally, man. And then me and Max talked about earlier too, changing the stigma of like just like, you know, knuckle dragging ground pounders. It's like no, we're skilled workers. Like we talked about earlier, like there's so much training that goes into us and so many educated folks that are on the fire line, whether classically educated through the school systems or just the world knowledge they got and certificates through the Forest Service, so it's like, man, we're not just some random folks putting a tool in the dirt. We know what we're doing, and lives are at risk. And if we don't do our job right, there's not people could die. So there's high risk, there's high stakes.
People can die, homes and communities will be lost. We are
Yeah,
making $1 million decisions. Give ourselves more credit than what we have. You are
Yeah,
not a knuckle dragger. You are
we
a wildland firefighter that's highly skilled and highly experienced that can control an emerging complex incident like nobody else in this country.
professional wildland firefighters. That is what each and every Forest Service firefighter is. I don't care if you're a GS3, all the way up to a GS12. It doesn't matter. If you're out there doing this work, getting these calls, working these incidents, you are a professional wildland firefighter. And like we were saying, Luke, like I know we joke around a lot, right? About the knuckle dragger thing, or F college. I mean, even my own kid, has said that, like
yeah,
when he was in high school, uh, you know, dude, what's up with this, Simon? D's. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna be on a hot shot crew. Ultimately, yes, that's what he did. But but one of the smartest people I know. You know what I mean? It's not. It's This is a skilled, intelligent, professional workforce. Just because we got beards a lot of the time, and we're pretty damn dirty because we don't get to shower and we're sleeping on the ground, doesn't mean we're not professionals.
yep, absolutely, yeah. That professional look of being in a suit. Me and Steve had talked about it right before we started too. It's like that shouldn't be the universal sign for a professional is being in a three-piece suit. It should be like what your work ethic is, what your work actually is, you tangible, right? Like see the work that's produced by wildland firefighters, and that's professional right there. Like you said, we're out in the fire line for 14 days or longer. You get extended to 21, and then how many of us want to go to the barber? How many of us want to like spend some time like doing any of that on our days off, man? You want to do whatever you can, like go find some water and go relax and get the best R&R you can get, because you only get 3 days and then you're back to it, and then you can be shipped back off to the middle of nowhere, like you were saying, Steve, like, and with a family. So you're going to try to get those 3 days with your family and do as much family things as you can, or if you're just a single person, just relax as much as you can and get some kind of summer before you kick back out the door and end up, on some other god awful fire in the middle of nowhere. You had 110 degrees running a saw, And to the point of like intelligence, if you're not smart, you're not going to last, or you're going to kill yourself because you're going to make a bad decision, or worse, kill somebody else. So yeah, that's my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of logistics, a lot of logistics, and it's very important. And if you don't do those logistics correctly, you're gonna be walking to the bottom of the hill after you brought all that stuff up because you forgot something. You're gonna have to make that trek back up, and it's gonna hurt. And it's
Yeah,
gonna hurt even worse than the first time.
yeah,
I definitely forgot. Oh dang, I forgot to bring a reducer up the hill, or you know, forgot something. I've
yeah.
definitely made those mistakes.
Speaking of hiking up the hill, I'm going to throw an analogy out there, and I'm going to kind of change the subject a little bit, guys.
Yeah, hit me, man.
Um, uh, you know, I I you know I talk to a lot of people. I go all over. Same with Gut. We talk to people. We talk to firefighters across this country. We try to get them involved. We try to get them to be advocates for themselves through the union. And if you just want to be a member and pay your damn dues, so we can go do this work on your behalf, cool, whatever. I want you to get as involved as possible. I want everybody to get involved as possible. I want everybody to have a part in this union, right? But I hear a lot, dude, we're getting the benefits. I've gotten the boot stipend for years. I get all these benefits. I get the extra money in my check, and I'm not a member. Why the hell would I pay dues? I'm getting it anyways.
Yeah,
Hell, if I get in trouble, you guys got to represent me anyways. Whatever, whatever it is, I get it anyways. And that kind of like I understand that mentality in certain fields. All right, like in certain fields are pretty cutthroat, whatever. But this is not one of them. Like we work with our brothers and sisters out there. We rely on each other. Um, it's literally like watching your crew member, hump 3 bladder bags up the side of a hill while you sit on the bumper and eat your sandwich. You know what I mean? And just say, good luck, man. Make sure it gets up there because I'm going to cruise up there and grab one of them bladder bags later. That's what it is. I don't know anybody in fire that would ever let that happen, would ever be okay with that because we help each other out. We're all part of it. And at this point in time, like anybody that's watching this podcast, like if you can be a union member, be a member. All right. If you don't think we're doing our job in a year, whatever it is, then get out. But as of right now, we have so many people that are busting their ass, giving up their own time. Like this trip to DC, we got like 25 people going out there on their vacation time. These are firefighters using their damn vacation time, leaving their families, to go work the hill on your behalf, like on everybody's behalf, to get this thing over, to get it over the hump and try to get this thing passed, so we can all have a better life. It's crazy that there's anybody out there that is eligible to join the union wearing fire boots that hasn't done it. I'm sorry. I just had to put that out there because I don't think people quite understand. It doesn't matter if you're pro-union or anti-union. Be pro you. Be pro your career. Be pro your brothers and sisters that you've been working with that you're on the side of the hill with. That's what we're doing. That's it. Like Gut has said before, or I think he said it earlier. We don't give any money to any politicians. It's illegal. None of your dues money goes to paying off politicians, goes to elections, none of that stuff. What it goes to is us trying to get this stuff done. And sure, you can get on our Instagram posts and you'll see that like maybe we support a candidate. You know why we support like John Tester? We were just up in Montana. That's where I met you, Luke.
yeah,
Going up there to support John Tester. Why? Because he got the Wildland Firefighter Paycheck Protection Act introduced 4 times, and he saw it through until it got passed. I mean, he put himself out there. He worked his ass off for us. You could disagree with his politics, whatever. That's fine. He's also a co-sponsor on the Wildland Firefighter Paycheck Protection Act. He's also one of the people that worked on getting presumptive illness law codified. Like that guy. Like I said, you might totally disagree with a lot of his politics, but do a lot of his politics actually affect you and your family? No, this stuff does. This stuff does because this is your job. So, maybe he's a Democrat and you're a Republican, but he's the one that's passing bills. Like, I'll vote for a Republican 100%. Like, I usually vote Democrat. I'll just say it. But I've voted for Republicans that are doing the right damn thing. The Republicans that are actually supporting us. And there's a lot of them out there.
Yeah, I have like a really good like example of that in one area in California's, I think, 27th district. Representative Garcia, Mark Garcia, fighter pilot, big area, like a lot of wildland firefighters didn't sign on to our bill, right? So we got a bunch of firefighters. We went out to his town hall and said, "Hey, do you support wildland firefighters? Will you do this?" And blah, 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 that kind of thing. And we did it in front of his constituents. And of course, he said, "Yes, awesome. I will be on part of it." Like, that's great. Okay? 2 weeks later, still waiting. Crickets, not hearing nothing. So what do? We're in D.C., right? We track him down. Why haven't you signed on to our bill? Huh? Yeah. And I got one of my guys with a camera. Do you want wildland firefighters to know that you don't support them in their area, in a very fire-prone area? Is that okay with you? He signed on to our bill within an hour.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
And it may have been a clerical or staff error. That's fine. But it takes people being there in person to get those folks on board. That's just how this game works on both sides.
Yeah. Absolutely. Man, I'm about to
So,
lose some storage on my device. I thought everything's going to the cloud, but I guess everything's going on my phone. So
On your phone.
yeah, I have to cut this one
all
short,
right.
fellas.
Well,
What was
hey,
it?
were you able to get that link to him in the QR code?
Yeah, I sent Luke a flyer via Instagram.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, we could, like Gut and I have talked before. We could seriously sit here until I gotta miss my flight in the morning and talk about this stuff. Main thing we want to get across is right now we are doing a big push in DC, and we need everybody to call their congressmen, call their senators, go on the action alert, click. It's very simple. It takes 2 seconds. Send the letter, but make those phone calls. Find out who your congressman is. Call them. WFPPA, Wildland Firefighter Paycheck Protection Act, HR 5169, and Senate bill is S 2272, the companion bill. Call your senators, call your congressmen. Let's get that through. Okay. We also have a temp buyback bill out right now. So that Kilmer introduced. So that's another one we're going to be pushing. But definitely WFPPA. We're getting to that point where we have to get it done. We need everybody's help. So that's what I'm going to leave you with.
All right. Thanks, fellas. Steve, got anything? I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you for the time and opportunity. I'm sure we'll do this again. We can provide an update later. Everybody stay tuned on our Instagram page at NFFE _ wildland _ fire and a couple other NFFE pages you'll see out there. We'll be going live the entire week to share what's actually happening on the Hill with you, and we would like for everybody to start calling before we get into those meetings. That'd be really awesome to be walking in there as they're and the phones are ringing as we walk in. That shows a lot of power from us, and that shows a big influence that we have on their, on the member of Congress.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate the fellas. Like I said, we'll have to do it again and work out the bugs on this one. But man, appreciate you guys taking the time and appreciate the work and good luck on the hill, and I'll be sharing all the stuff that you guys are doing too. And yeah, so thanks again, fellas.
All right. Well, hey, thank you, man. Thanks for having us
Yeah,
on,
thank you.
and
Appreciate you.
hopefully the next trip you're with us.
I hope so. That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, next
All right.
one, boys. Thanks, fellas.
All right.
We'll see you guys.
Bye, guys.